Today is Trinity Sunday. It's an unusual day in the Christian calendar, a day for celebrating and focusing on a doctrine, a rational concept. In the whole history of Christianity, there are only a few others, and none with the prominence of the Feast of Trinity, occurring as it does on the first Sunday after Pentecost. That's been how it has been observed at least since the 14th century. In the church calendar, we usually focus on persons. Jesus, of course, mainly, disciples, Mary, Paul, present-day witnesses and disciples and saints, the impact of our faith on us, on our daily lives. Today, our focus is on a doctrine. For many people, it's not easy to get excited about a doctrine. There's a pretty long and deep tradition of distrust of rational doctrines and to prefer the personal, that which you can touch or feel. As an illustration of that, I had a parishioner at my church in Michigan City who was at first perplexed by the doctrine of the Trinity. Ultimately, she was put off by the logic and rationality of it. Now, she firmly believed in God. She had a sense of who and what Jesus was, and even the resurrected Jesus living today. But to proclaim a three-in-one as somehow vital to being a Christian, that just seemed bizarre to her. She was exceptionally good with children. She had a Sunday school class, and I was really glad to have her in the church. But ultimately, she decided she had to leave because the doctrine of the Trinity just didn't work for her. The doctrine itself grew out of a need to try to find words to understand, to proclaim the relationship between Jesus and God. Christians began to separate from Judaism because Jesus had touched them. You can read the record of that in the New Testament. The power, the grace, holiness of this person, Jesus, somehow had to be explained in relation to the holiness, the grace, the power of God. What the church came up with was Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the Trinity. Clearly, the Trinity gets at the heart of what it means to be a Christian. But what are we to make of it? The creed, whether it is the baptismal creed that we used last week or the Nicene Creed we use this week, is Trinitarian in its structure. The sign of the cross is by tradition accompanied with the words, "In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit." Baptism is made in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. One major strand of the theology of the Trinity focuses on the use of the word persons. Trinity as one God in three persons. This is probably the most familiar formula that we're accustomed to. Now, without question, the most difficult class that I took in graduate school at Notre Dame was a seminar on the Trinity taught by the English language professor who was the number one expert at the time, Catherine Lacuna. Her magnum opus, God for Us, the Trinity in Christian Life, seeks to move our appreciation and understanding of the doctrine away from a rational and logical argument and to make it possible to experience the Trinity through our own personal experience of salvation through Jesus. I'm not sure how much I understood the doctrine of the Trinity after taking her course. I said last week that after all these years, I don't really understand the meaning of baptism. At least not better than I did in my youthful attempts to live up to the expectations of being a Christian. It's been a lifetime for me of trying to live into the meaning of my baptism, and that is no less true of the Trinity. I make the sign of the cross in the name of the Trinity, and I pray every day, utilizing the language, even, I might say, the shape of the Trinity. But do I understand it? I'm working at being a Trinitarian Christian. I'm certainly not arrived. Possibly the best way to say what I'm trying to say here is through the words of an African missionary by the name of Vincent Donovan, In a classic work of his titled Christianity Rediscovered, he tells his story of being a missioner in Africa and about what he learned of God among the Maasai of Tanzania. These are his words. As I was nearing the end of the evangelization of the first 6 Maasai communities, I began looking towards baptism. So I went to the old man in Dangoya's community to prepare them for the final step. I told them I had finished the imparting of the Christian message insofar as I could. I had taught them everything I knew about Christianity, and now it was up to them. They could reject it or accept it. I could do no more. If they did accept it, of course, it required public baptism. So I would go away for a week or so and give them the opportunity to make their judgment on the gospel of Jesus Christ. If they did accept it, then there would be baptism. However, baptism wasn't automatic. Over the course of the year it had taken me to instruct them, I had gotten to know them very well indeed. So I stood in front of the assembled community and began, "This old man sitting here has missed too many of our instruction meetings. He was always out herding cattle. He will not be baptized with the rest. These 2 on the side will be baptized because they always attended and understood very well what we talked about. So did this young mother. She will be baptized. But that man there has obviously not understood the instructions. And that lady there has scarcely believed the gospel message. They cannot be baptized. And this warrior has not shown enough effort." At that point, the old man in Ngoya stopped me politely but firmly. "Padre, why are you trying to break us up and separate us? During this whole year that you've been teaching us, we have talked about these things when you were not here, at night around the fire. Yes, there have been lazy ones in this community, but they have been helped by those with much energy. There are stupid ones in the community, but they have been helped by those who are intelligent. Yes, there are ones with little faith in this village, but they have been helped by those with much faith. Would you turn out and drive off the lazy ones and the ones with little faith and the stupid ones? From the first day I have spoken for these people, and I speak for them now. Now, on this day, 1 year later, I can declare for them and for all this community that we have reached the step in our lives where we can say, we believe." For Donovan, this story illustrates why the faith we are living into as Christians is not an individual sort of thing. It is not, as many have been taught, just about an individual's relationship to God. Our faith is a communitarian faith. It is a community built on and with love. It is our basic experience of the one God, a community. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. For centuries, the Church had claimed that a right understanding of the doctrine of the Trinity was the determining characteristic of whether one was on the right side of things. It was called orthodoxy. Orthodoxy was the thing that determined whether you were in the right party, on the right side of things. It never should have come down to that. A way to understand this is as follows. The earliest Christians experienced a new and powerful relationship with God through Jesus. It changed their lives. For centuries, people could point to Christians as, "See, he or she is one of them," because of the lives they lived. It was the changed lives and the new and deeper experience of the love of God that made these Christians distinctive. Jesus, as we meet him in the New Testament, did not travel around Judea asking people if they believed in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. He didn't ask them, "What do you believe?" No, he said things like, "You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your being, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. You must love your neighbor as you love yourself. All the law and the prophets depend on these 2 commands." It is the Trinity that is distinctive about Christianity. Baptism is incorporation into that Trinitarian community. One God is bound together in the love of three persons. The baptismal community is identified as a community of love. We have had enough of focusing on what divides us. It is time to stake our lives on what binds us together. There is nothing that does that better than the living God, creator of all that is and that shall be. What makes us Christian is the evidence that others see that Christians seek and serve Christ in all persons, loving your neighbor as yourself. It is where it is abundantly clear that Christians strive for justice and peace among all people and respect the dignity of every human being. It is the living God who binds us together as one. The doctrine of the Trinity has the potential to overturn centuries of division and alienation in the church, in our societies, in the human family that has been plagued with violence and slavery. Our baptismal faith as a Trinitarian faith has the potential to be transforming and unifying. It is time. I dream of a time when the people of our land will look at a group of folks who bind up the brokenhearted and who see common humanity where others see us versus them. And they will look at this group of folks and say, they must be Christians. We're not there yet. Trinity Sunday can serve to beckon us to the reality that St. Francis saw in his prayer. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is discord, union. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. We're not there yet, but we're on our way, Lord. Thanks be to God.